Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. My name is Todd, and on this channel we focus primarily on raised bed gardening, but there's also other videos that we have that involve build projects, chickens, recipes, and other odds and ends along the way. So if this is your first time here, welcome, and we hope that you'll subscribe to the channel. And if you've already subscribed, then thanks for coming back by and hanging out with me again today. So today's video, I wanted to do a quick update or next part of the Starting Seeds Indoors video that I posted a couple weeks ago. In that video, we talked about kind of getting started, what kind of containers you can use, lighting, sterilizing your soil, shelving, that sort of thing. So now, we are still in February, so what can you start planting now? It's still really early for most of us. We're probably 10 or 12 weeks away from last frost. So here are 5 plants that you can start indoors in February to kind of fill your gardening void that you've been waiting just to plant and have something green all winter. Here's 5 plants that you can plant in February to get yourself going. So the first plant that we're going to talk about today is onions. I started some actually even a little bit earlier than February, and they've already sprouted. This is about 2 weeks in. I think I started them on January 28th. So I got some nice sprouts going on. They take about 7 to 10 days to germinate. That will also depend on your soil temperature. The warmer your soil, the faster your onions are going to sprout. Sometimes in as little as 4 days, which is what mine did. Another reason why you want to start your onions early is because they're one of the first crops that you can put outside. You don't have to wait for that last frost date. Onions can be transplanted outside 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, and they'll do fine. They can take a light frost as well as some snow. You might want to just add some mulch to your beds to help protect the bulbs as they're growing. Plant number 2 to start indoors this early in February is artichokes. With artichokes, there's over 140 varieties to choose from. So when you're choosing your seeds, look for ones that might do better for your particular climate. Some do better in warmer areas, and there's others that are more, there's some hybrids out there that do better in a wide range of climates. So if you live farther north and need a little bit more forgiving plant, look for some of those varieties. Artichokes can take 2 to 3 weeks to germinate, and they have a very long growing season. They can range anywhere from, you could be harvesting within 80 to 90 days. Other varieties take 150 or 180 days. Generally, artichokes are a perennial plant and don't produce, harvestable produce in their first year in a lot of cases, but there are ways around that, and we'll be covering that in future episodes. But just know that you can plant artichokes this early and get them going, get them established. The last thing with artichokes is to plant ahead, because once they do get growing and are big and outside, they take up a lot of room. They can be as big as 4 feet around and 3 feet tall, so you want to plan your garden space for their size. The next plant we're going to talk about is celery. You can start these seeds indoors at this time now as well. These take about 2 to 3 weeks to germinate, and they have really tiny seeds. And so you can put like a few seeds in each tray or pot, I should say, or if you plant in a larger tray, that you can kind of sprinkle the seeds along the top. You don't want to cover them very much. You just kind of broadcast the seed and then press them down. They need a little bit of light and they like some warmth. About 70 to 75 degrees is optimal for germinating your celery. And then once they start getting bigger and established, you can transplant them outside about 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date. And so that also gives you another item that you can put out in the garden a little bit earlier than maybe some other crops that can't handle the frost. The fourth type of plant that you can start indoors this early is rosemary. Now, rosemary is going to take a little bit of patience for a couple of different reasons. Number one, they only have about a 30% germination rate. So basically for every 10 seeds that you plant, probably only 3 are going to come up unless you have some really good seed. So you want to plant ahead, plant extra seeds, put several per pot or again broadcast across the soil, and then you can thin them out later for whatever pops up. With rosemary, you don't want to plant them deeply. You'll be putting the seeds on top of the soil and then just kind of pressing them down a little bit because they like more heat and light when it comes to germinating. Additionally, the other reason you're going to need some patience is they can take up to a month before they start germinating. Some may come earlier, within a couple of weeks, but the average is 2 to 4 weeks. So if you're like 3 weeks in and have no movement in your pot where you have your rosemary, don't despair. Some of them just take longer. So if you want some optimal conditions to get them going, they like the high heat. So soil temps around 80 degrees is what's great for rosemary. And then once they get established, get their good leaves going on them, then you can transplant them into pots or areas outside. And you'll want to put them in areas that get 6 to 8 hours of sun per day. Then our last one is oregano. These take about 7 to 14 days to get germinated. Again, just like all these other ones, they prefer some warmer temperature soil to get germinated, like 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And with oregano, again, their seeds are very tiny and almost like dust. So you'll want to kind of just broadcast them on the soil, and then you can thin them out later. And don't bury them deep. You just want to kind of press them down in. They also like, some good heat and light to get going. And so once they are sprouted and your last frost date is passed, then you can transplant them outside. And the great thing about oregano is that they will come back year after year and probably continue to grow. I have an oregano plant out in my garden. I say plant, it's actually multiple plants now, but it's been going for 4 years now, and I harvest off of it every year, and the plant just keeps getting a little bit bigger and wider and filling up that section of the bed for me. So I've got tons of fresh oregano every year. And you can do this too, once you get your seeds going inside, get them transplanted outside, for years to come, you're gonna have your own homegrown oregano. Okay, so there's our 5 plants that you can start in February indoors. As with any type of plant that you're starting indoors, there will be a time that you have to take to harden the plants off when you transplant them outside, taking them from indoors to their permanent home outdoors. And hardening off, we'll cover that in more depth in a future episode, but that's basically a process in which you get your plants used to the UV rays from sunlight, since they've been growing in artificial light, most likely if you have them indoors all those times. So you have to get them accustomed to real sunlight, but we'll cover that in more detail. Just take that into consideration when you're making your garden plans. Okay, so that's it. 5 plants that you can plant in February indoors to get your garden started, getting that head start. So I hope whatever's going on in your neck of the woods is going great for you, and that you are having a fantastic day. We will see you again soon. Namaste.